I don't think I'd ever want to become the best version of myself. I know that probably sounds a strange thing to say, especially now, because so much self-improvement is built around exactly that idea, become the best version of yourself, reach your potential, become who you're always meant to be. And I get why people say it, it sounds positive, it sounds ambitious like growth, but the more I think about it, the less I like the idea, yeah? Imagine actually getting there. Yeah, imagine reaching the absolute pinnacle of who you could ever possibly become. Imagine standing there one day and realizing, this is it. This is the best I will ever be. But where'd you go after that? Yeah, what happens next? Does every day after that just become some slow decline? Does every future version of you become slightly worse than the one you managed to reach? That doesn't sound inspiring to me. It just sounds exhausting, yeah? It sounds like spending the rest of your life trying not to lose something, trying not to fall off, yeah? And I don't want that, yeah? I don't want to think that I don't want there to be a best version of me, I hope there never is. I think I'd rather just believe that there's always someone else still, waiting ahead, yeah? Not necessarily better, just next, and maybe that's enough, yeah? When I was younger, I don't think I gave much serious thought to who I'd be at 40, yeah? Not really. I was officially an adult, but I think I thought about my future self in the same, vague way a child does, There might have been assumptions, of course there were, yeah? You assume that everything will fall into place eventually, don't you? You assume that life will just arrange itself like some sort of, I don't know, predetermined cosmological jigsaw puzzle, We're just waiting to click together. You keep moving long enough. But most of my thoughts back then were probably not about the man I was going to be at 40. And probably about what the next day would bring, and what drinks might come with it, let's face it. I don't think I expected that at 40 I'd still be trying to scrape together enough money for a deposit on our first house, I didn't think antidepressants would become part of my morning. I don't think I expected to still be figuring much out, yeah? And I don't know, younger me might have seen that as a failure, yeah? 40 years old, still not sorted, still not finished, still not standing there as the completed man I was apparently supposed to become, but I don't see it that way. Well, I'm trying not to see it that way now. Because there is something just strangely comforting about reaching this age, yeah? And realising that not having everything figured out is not the disaster I once thought it would be. In fact, learning to live with that uncertainty might be one of the most important things I've ever done, yeah? Not just accepting that I'm still figuring things out, just finding some solace in it, just being glad about it. I don't know, it's hard to explain, yeah? On paper, it sounds like I'm saying I'm glad my life is unfinished. And yeah, in a way I am, because if everything was sorted, then what's left, yeah? If the puzzle's complete, what would life still have to show me? We talk about growth like it's supposed to lead somewhere final, yeah? As though one day you'll become confident enough, yeah, and accomplished enough that you finally get to relax into being who you are. But life don't work like that, yeah? I met people twice my age who are still sorting things out, still changing their minds, still trying to figure out what they want to do with the years they have left. Like, nobody really seems to arrive. Maybe that's because that there isn't actually anywhere to arrive at, yeah? Maybe we're not unfinished products just waiting to be completed. Maybe we are just living things, yeah? And living things change. I know it sounds obvious, yeah? It sounds obvious that we are living things. Of course we are living things. But I think it matters. A product has a finished version, yeah? A person doesn't. That living thing doesn't. A person has, like, seasons, lessons, regrets, mistakes they won't make again. Old parts of themselves that they look back on, with sadness and embarrassment, disgust, anger, gratitude, yeah? Sometimes all at once. And yeah, that's difficult. I don't look back at every part of my old self kindly, yeah? There are pieces of who I used to be that I'm glad are no longer in charge. The ego, the insecurity, the lack of perspective, the need for things to be a certain way, the need to win. And the only truth is, at the time I couldn't see most of it, yeah, not clearly. That's one of the frightening things about being a human. You're controlled by something you don't even recognize yet, yeah? You can think you're making choices, you can think you're being honest, you think you're reacting to the situation in front of you, but really there's strings being pulled from underneath you, yeah? From somewhere underneath you. Well, whether it's fear or pride or just old hurt and old shame, yeah? You're trying to prove something that nobody even asked you to prove. Until you see these things properly, they have far more control over you than you realise. And that's not a pretty thing to admit, but it's true, yeah? There are things I did when I was younger that I understand better now. I don't excuse them, but I understand them. And that's not the same thing, yeah? I can look back on choices that I made and I can see the insecurities sitting underneath them, yeah? That childish need to be right, yeah? Or impressive or, untouchable or just to justify whatever reaction came next, yeah? And I suppose that's why... Well, I suppose that's part of why, at least. I find it strange when people say they wish they could go back and be who they used to be. Yeah? Part of me understands it. I do get it. Of course I understand. Yeah, there's things I miss. I miss having more energy. I miss having a lot less responsibilities. I miss not aching when I stand up, which is a very important part of it, It's, there's a lightness that disappears when life gets heavier, yeah? Age and growth aren't the same thing, but they do travel together, yeah? And as they do, life asks more of you. So yeah, there's parts of being younger that I miss. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But if someone gave me that miracle chance of being able to go back, would I take it? Would I trade what I know now to be who I was then? Would I choose to become lesser just because it hurt less to get up off the sofa? I'd choose not to have a fly in my face, I'll tell you that much. But no, of course I wouldn't, yeah? Younger doesn't automatically just mean being free. Younger just means being less aware of the cage that you're already in. And that's the part we miss when we, look back at the past. We don't look back on what it actually was. We just romanticize it, yeah? Do you really want to be the old you, or do you just miss having that energy? Do you just miss having fewer responsibilities? That's not the same thing. the person I used to be had things that I no longer have, yeah, of course, yeah, but also lacked things that I wouldn't want to give up now, yeah. You lacked perspective, you lacked responsibility, you lacked patience, you know, you lacked a less generous tolerance for my own bullshit, and most importantly, he lacked restraint, yeah. Restraint is one of the most powerful things life can teach a person. Which is annoying because most of us learn it late, yeah? Usually after we've needed it, after the words have already landed, after the damage has been done. Yeah? Restraint doesn't look impressive from the outside. You know, it doesn't get applause because it's the thing that you don't do, yeah? So nobody else can see it, yeah? It's not saying the thing you could have. It's not sending that message, even though your pride is still right in it, yeah? It's not turning every feeling into an action, yeah? That's not weakness, that is growth. But it's the kind of growth you can't fake early, yeah? You know, you can hear someone talk about restraint when you're young and you nod along and you understand the words, but understanding the words isn't the same as life having you teach you the cost of ignoring it. It's some lessons only arrive the long way, yeah, the hard way, the expensive way. And that's why I don't want to go back, yeah? The person I was didn't know what I know now, and the person I am now still doesn't know what life is going to ask of me next, yeah? And there's a comfort in that. There is. I know I don't sound comforted, I sound angry, but there is a comfort in that. I don't know who I'm still becoming. I have no idea, you know? That journey, that road ahead of me is still dark and foggy and unclear. You know, I can guess, I can make plans, you know, I can aim myself in certain directions that I would like to travel, certainly, yes. And that is wise. That is a good idea to have plans, yeah. But I can't fully know what life will require from me. No one can. And maybe that's why the idea of this best version just feels false to me, yeah? Because how can I possibly know what the best version of me is when I don't even know what life is going to teach me? Yeah, there could be someone ahead of me who only exists because of something I haven't faced yet, yeah? I'm someone who becomes more patient because that patience has been demanded of me from something that hasn't yet happened to me, yeah? Or someone who's braver because fear just didn't give me any other options, yeah? Or maybe it's someone who becomes softer because hardness it costs too much. Maybe it's someone who becomes quieter because I finally learned that not everything needs my reaction. Yeah, but how can I meet that person early? You know, I can't. Life has to introduce them to me, yeah? And you have to become that person on that road, yeah? And it's not always comfortable, yeah? So sometimes the next part of you arrives through joy, with love, yeah? And that's great, yeah? Maybe it's through becoming a parent or finding something that matters, you know, whether it be a friendship or a purpose or, yeah, just a quiet corner of life that makes you feel more like yourself than you expected, yeah? But sometimes that person arrives through pain, through mistakes, through burnout, through regret, through finally seeing something about yourself that you cannot unsee. And I don't want to romanticize it, yeah? Because it's not always beautiful. Sometimes life is ugly, yeah? Sometimes life's embarrassing. You know, but it's realizing that you're wrong. It's about starting again slowly, yeah? It's taking stupid tablets that you never thought would become part of your morning. Life is standing in the supermarket, yeah? Checking your bank account before you buy sausages for your children, yeah? It's sitting in the car for 5 minutes before you feel you can get up and open that door, because the version of you that can walk through the door hasn't arrived yet. It's looking back at old choices and realising you weren't misunderstood, yeah? You're just wrong. And that is part of becoming too, yeah? But that's not the clean part. That's not the inspirational part, yeah? No, nobody puts that bit on a poster over a sunset, yeah? But it's real. And it still does not mean that you are finished. It does not mean that you have failed either. It means that you are still alive inside that lesson. I know live for today can sound very, I don't want to slay other platforms, but it is very Instagrammy. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's very phrasey, isn't it? Live for today. It sounds like, yeah. It's a cat poster, isn't it? But there's truth in it, yeah? If you spend your whole life yearning for the past or waiting for the future, then today becomes the thing you keep spending without even noticing. But today's the only place of you can actually live, yeah? You can't go back and become the person you were, yeah? And you can't skip ahead and become the person you might one day be. You only have this one day, this one moment. This unfinished person is you, yeah? The still learning person is you. You've got history behind you. You've got fog ahead of you. And maybe the job isn't to become the best version of yourself. Maybe the job is just to stay honest enough, just to become whoever life is asking you to become next, yeah? Whether it's learning that lesson, whether it's making that mistake, whether it's just having that conversation, yeah? That restraint. Let's come back to restraint, yeah? Just having that restraint. Maybe it's just one ordinary day, yeah? Just one fight at a time. I don't think there's a best version of you. I hope there isn't, because that would mean there's a final version. And we are here on this. I don't want to get spiritual on you. I don't want to go that way. But we are here on this earth to keep changing, to keep learning, to keep meeting new parts of ourselves as life asks us different questions, yeah? The person you are today isn't the whole story. The person you were isn't the whole story either. And the person you become next isn't. They're not waiting at some finish line with everything sorted, yeah? They're being built now. It's quiet. It's awkward. It's not perfect, yeah? But they're in the choices that you make today, in the things you stop repeating, yeah? In the lessons that you finally let land. In those moments where you choose differently, even slightly, yeah? It doesn't have to be a big change, a big choice. It's just a slight change, yeah? You don't get to choose whether life changes you, because it will. But you do get some say in what those changes become, yeah? You choose how it ends.